Hey guys, YouTube Nerd here. Alright, now here I am continuing on with my Christmas reviews for this year. And now here I am to review a Christmas movie. In this lineup. Like I said, I'm alternating between just a special and a movie throughout these reviews. And now here I am to talk about a Christmas movie. And for this review, this is going to be a review for Fred Claus. So this is a movie that I had honestly never actually seen before. Yeah, I do remember when this movie did come out in 2007. Yeah, and I actually did want to see this movie when it came out, but I never actually he got around to go seeing it. Like I was never actually able to go see it. Yeah, me and my family we just like never really did get around to actually going to see this movie. So yeah, so I didn't see this film when it came in the theaters, and yeah, and even like over the years, ever since this film came out, I still haven't seen it. Like I never did actually like watch it on TV or ever did actually like get it on DVD or Blu-ray or anything. So yeah, so I'm not really sure like why I had never actually seen this movie before. Yeah, but yeah, so since I never had actually seen it before, I really didn't know really what to expect with this film. Like I have like heard like a lot of people just saying like how this is a really dumb film. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, this film only has like a 20% score on the tomato meter. So this film really just like did not really like get like the most love in the world. Like a lot of people have really just seemed to like really say that this is a stupid movie. So I didn't know what to expect, but I feels like I was kind of like from what I had heard, like people talking about it, like I really was just thinking like this was probably going to be like a really dumb film, and just like I really was not gonna like it. So going in, I really like wasn't too sure what to really expect from the film. Yeah, and after seeing it, what did I think about it? Uh, I actually did think that it was all right. I mean, this is not amongst like the best Christmas movies of all time. Like, there's definitely going to be like a ton of better Christmas movies than this. Like, I have seen a ton of better Christmas movies, such as the ones I have reviewed before in previous years. So this is definitely like not like among the best Christmas movies of all time, but I actually did think it was all right. Like, I did actually think that like this the initial setup honestly was kind of funny. Like Santa Claus having a brother, I honestly did think that that was actually kind of a funny concept. That is like kind of like one of the reasons why I did want to see this movie when it was originally released. Yeah, I did think that the idea of Santa Claus having a brother, I honestly thought was funny. Yeah. So I did think that that was kind of like a funny idea. Yeah, and honestly, like I said, I did think that this was all right. Yeah. So yeah, the premise of this film, gosh, it is like kind of interesting. Yeah, what it is about is how Santa's older brother Fred, he's like kind of living just like a normal life, like away from Santa. Like he's not actually living in the North Pole. He's just like living like just a normal life with him. Yeah, but then he gets like he ends up like getting like kind of like a caught in a financial bind, and so he ends up like asking his brother for help. Yeah, but yeah, Santa tells him that like if he actually does want like his help with money, he's actually gonna have to come to the North Pole to work for it. Yeah. So and that is really like what this film mostly consists of. It really is just a Fred Claus coming up to the North Pole to work for his brother to actually make the money that he needs. Yeah. Yeah, and that is really like what this film really mostly consists of. Yeah, and it shows how like the two brothers they really don't get along because in the opening of the film it does show like how they really were just like very polar opposites from each other, and Santa ended up like causing like some problems for Fred when they were kids. Yeah, and so as a result of that, just like they really don't have like a very good connection as brothers. Yeah. Yeah, and it also shows how like Fred doesn't really even like have a very good relationship with their parents either. Yeah. So yeah, so Fred really is just like the one that really is just like the one that really is kind of like just very distant from the family, and it even shows how he really has a strained relationship with his girlfriend as well. So yeah, so it just shows how like Fred really is just like a complete polar opposite from Santa. Yeah, and there's also like this subplot in the film where like up at the North Pole, like there's this like a efficiency expert that's monitoring like supernatural entities, and then he's there as he's analyzing the North Pole, like he's just like telling Santa that everything has to be in order, or else like if he fails like a three strike assessment, then the North Pole will be shut down. Yeah, and it even like just shows how like this agent is like really just a very bitter, and he's even like causing problems for the North Pole. That's really just like to really just like get it to be shut down. Yeah, so Santa also has to deal with that in this film as well. Yeah. So the film overall does have a pretty good cast. Like, yeah, Vince Vaughn in the title role of Fred Claus, and I do think that he does do decent enough in this film. Yeah. You have Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus, and overall, I do think he is a pretty decent Santa. I remember like Nostalgia Critic did put Paul Giamatti in this film in his top 12 Santa Clauses list that he did years ago. And he is kind of like a different type of Santa than the ones that we usually see in films. And this film also does have like a cast member such as Miranda Richardson, Kathy Bates, Trevor Peacock, Rachel Wise, John Michael Higgins, Elizabeth Banks, and Kevin Spacey. Yeah, yeah. So the film does have a pretty good cast, and yeah, the cast really is just like I don't know, they're kind of like hit and miss in this film. Like some performances are decent, others really are forgettable. So yeah, the performances in the film they really are just like really inconsistent. Yeah, and there is some stuff about the film that really just does get like pretty over the top. Like I feel like the stuff with the agent really wasn't needed in the film. I feel like that's stuff that really just could have been cut from the film and just have the focus be on the brothers. And I feel that the stuff with the agent really like wasn't needed in the film. Yeah, and yeah, but yeah, the stuff between Fred and Santa, like the connection between them, I do think is done decently. Like, I don't find it like completely stupid. Like, there is some things about it that do I feel work. Like, it shows how Fred kind of does have like a different perspective for like naughty and nice children than Santa does. But yeah, and it also shows how how Fred really is not really all into like always hearing Christmas songs. There's like this one scene in the movie where like after like Santa Claus is coming to town is like constantly playing over and over again. He just gets like sick of it, so he locks up like the DJ Elf, and then he like ends up like putting on another song and having like all the elves dancing to it, which yeah was like kind of a funny scene. Yeah. Yeah. Then like towards the last third of the movie, like it shows how how uh Fred really kind of like puts a Santa in like a kind of a really hard spot after he pretty much like declares like every kid in the world nice, yeah. But then yeah, after like a fight breaks out between Fred and Santa, Fred ends up getting injured and he's not able to produce enough gifts for all of the good children. Then when Fred like kind of like learns like the kind of the error of his ways, Hayes, and how Santa is really trying to really apologize for like giving him the problems as children. Then Fred does have a change of heart, and so then he goes back to the North Pole and then volunteers to actually take a Santa's spot and deliver the gifts. So yeah, so I know that the deliver like somebody else delivering the presents for Santa. I've like seen that done a whole bunch of times. Like it's been done in a bunch of films, like the first Santa Claus movie, of course. Nightmare Before Christmas, Twas the Night. Yeah, even Noel that I talked about last year that had this kind of a that sort of a setup as well. So yeah, so this has been done before. So yeah, so that's not really like anything new that I've seen before. But yeah, I guess it is like kind of like a good way of like Fred kind of like redeeming himself to really like finish like do Santa's job for him. Yeah, and they do it in kind of a clever way in this film. I'm saying that like only a Claus can deliver the presents, and since Fred is a Claus, he's is able to do it, and he does. Yeah. So yeah, so I don't know, like this film, like I said, like not everything about this film works. Like this really is not amongst like the best Christmas movies of all time, but yeah, I don't find it to be as stupid as a lot of people have made it out to be. Like there is some stuff about it that does work. Like Paul Giamatti is a pretty decent Santa, and I do think Vince Vaughn does like a relatively good job in the film. Yeah, yeah, and like I said, there is some stuff about this film that does work. Yeah, but like I said, this just it really is not amongst like the best Christmas movies of all time. It's nowhere near that. Yeah, and is it now? Is this film actually good? Well, I don't know if I can really go so far to say that because yeah, there is like still like a lot of stuff about it that doesn't work. Like I said, the stuff with the agent I feel like wasn't really needed. And then, yeah, and plus, yeah, some scenes can just be like kind of like dumb, like when you see like Fred kind of like interacting with the elves. Like I said, that dance scene is kind of funny, but yeah, some other scenes with Fred interacting with the elves, like it just gets to be like kind of stupid and over the top, and yeah, a lot of stuff with the elves just really doesn't work. Yeah, but I do think that this film is better than some people give it credit for. Yeah. So I guess I would give this film probably like a 2.25 stars out of 4. All right. So yeah, so not going to waste much time on this. So yeah. So I'll just talk about the premise of the film. So as it opens up, it shows that with the Claus family, they give birth to a baby boy, and he's immediately starts saying "ho ho ho." So they yeah, and they name the baby Nicholas, and their older son Fred meets him, and Nick is referred to as little Saint Nick. But yeah, it shows like as they're growing up, like a rift starts between them as Nick ends up causing some problems for Fred, including cutting down a tree that Fred would always climb time to talk to a bird, and showed that like the birdhouse ended up being smashed, and the bird ended up flying away. Yeah. So as a result of that, like Nick really has a very well, Fred has a very strained relationship with the Nick. Yeah. Then it shows like years later, like as when they're grown up, it shows Nick is now Santa. Though yeah, no explanation was really given how he actually did become Santa. So I did find that to kind of like be a little distracting. Like we just automatically see him as Santa. Like usually like when somebody does become Santa in films, such as like in the Santa Claus, Miracle on 34th Street, and even Noel, like there is at least like they show like how they actually do become Santa. But here there's no explanation for that. It's just like, no, he's Santa, and that's it. No explanation is given for it, how he did become Santa. Yeah. Yeah. And it shows how like Fred is now like living in Chicago as a repossession agent. Yeah. Yeah, and it shows how like he is also like has a bond with this orphan boy named Samuel Gibbons, who is also nicknamed Slam. Yeah, yeah, and it shows how like Fred is in a big financial bind after he has to raise some money for an illegal casino plan by like the 22nd. Yeah, yeah, and it shows how like he kind of like has a strained relationship with his girlfriend Wanda, and he just volunteered to take her out for her birthday for dinner. Yeah. But after like a Fred in an attempt to raise money for his casino plan, ends up like trying to like impersonate a Salvation Army employee and steal some money. like he eventually ends up like getting caught and arrested. Yeah. And as a result of that, then Wanda ended up breaking up with Fred after he didn't show for the dinner. Yeah, yeah. Then yeah, then Fred and then ended up calling up Nick, asking for bail money as well as a seed money, and Nick agreed to pay him, well, give him the bail money, but that in order to get the seed money, Nick told Fred that he would have to come to the North Pole and work for it. So then, uh, Nick sent down his head elf Willie to escort Fred to the North Pole and show how like a Willie ended up like picking Fred up in the sleigh, and they ended up flying to the North Pole. Yeah, and then then the assignment that Nick gave Fred was to assign children as naughty or nice. Yeah, yeah, and like I said, there's like this efficiency agent that in Clyde Northcutt that is monitoring the activity in the North Pole and is analyzing it, and told Fred that if he like doesn't succeed in a three strike assessment, that the North Pole would be shut down. Yeah, yeah, and so then then like I said, like at one point, like when Fred was like just like constantly hearing "Here Comes Santa Claus" or Santa Claus is coming to town playing. I mean, he then just ended up like locking the DJ Donnie up in a cabinet, and then ended up like just playing a different song, and like all the elves were dancing to it along with Fred. But then when Nick Northcutt and Nick's wife Annette, then like came in and saw the dancing, then Northcutt then gave Nick the first strike. Yeah, yeah, and then and later on, it showed how like Nick ended up like talking Fred into having dinner that evening with their parents. Parents, yeah, and it showed how Northcote was also invited. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, the dinner didn't go well, and the praise of Nick from their mother Phyllis, ended up causing in, uh, Fred to just leave the dinner. Yeah. Yeah. Then and as I said earlier, like it showed how like Northcutt ended up just like causing some problems himself at the North Pole to get like the North Pole to have you the other strikes, so it would be shut down. So he was just really sabotaging the work at the North Pole. Yeah, it showed like how he was like shredding children's letters to Santa, and Fred was blamed for losing the letters. Yeah, and so as a result of that, like it like gave them a second strike. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Then like it just showed how like Fred was just like so self-centered, and Fred witnessed at one point Wanda was giving another guy a parking ticket, but he also like uh showed that well, like the guy was like talking to Wanda as well, pretty much trying to ask her out. Which Fred like did witness like through like a snow globe in the workshop. Yeah. Yeah. Then later on, Fred did like see a Slam was at the top spot of the naughty list. Yeah, I guess I should mention like I said how like he had a friendship with Slam. Yeah, before Fred ended up leaving for the North Pole, it showed how like some like child services came and removed a Slam from the home and put him pretty much into like a group home for orphans. And yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it showed how like a Slam was like at the top of the naughty list, and it shows how like Slam really just had like some really bad behavior with other kids. Yeah, and it was like a result of like just him being bullied along with some bad advice Fred gave him earlier on. Yeah, then like like Fred like knew how Flame was a good kid, and then Fred then ended up just like assigning every child as nice. Yeah. Then the next day, like it showed how Nick really just like called Fred out for assigning, like declaring every child nice, saying that they didn't have enough presents to give to every nice kid. Yeah, because of what Fred did. A fight then ensued between Fred and Nick, and Fred ended up being injured, hurting his back. Yeah, and it showed how like they weren't able to produce enough gifts for every good child, and the North Pole ended up falling behind, and then Northcutt then assigned the third strike, which ended up like shutting down the North Pole. Yeah. Then when Fred then was like given his money as well as a gift from Nick, he then and went back home. And when he arrived home, like he then just like it showed like he had like a meeting with siblings of other celebrity siblings in an attempt to sort out his issues. It showed like there was Sylvester Stallone's brother there, Bill Clinton's brother there, and Alec Baldwin's brother there. So I think that was kind of funny. Yeah, yeah. Then and Fred then opened the gift that Nick gave him, and it showed that it was a replica of the birdhouse that Nick ended up destroying when they were kids, and also like there was a note from Nick apologizing for the tree. Yeah. And after seeing that, then Fred then had a change of heart, and then he used all the money that Fred gave him to just go back to the North Pole. And then when he arrived back, he then motivated the elves to just make as many gifts as possible, so they would have enough to give to all the nice kids. Yeah, but it also showed that due to Nick's injury, he was not able to deliver the gifts. So then Fred then decided that he would do the job, as like I said earlier, only a Claus can deliver the gifts. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Nick also well, Fred also reminded Nick that most kids that are considered naughty aren't bad. They're just going through bad situations, and every child deserves a gift for Christmas. Yeah. So then, yeah. So then Fred then got all the elves to make simple gifts, so every child would get one. Yeah. And then, yeah, Fred and Willie then set out on the sleigh to deliver the gifts. But Joe, like as they were like en route to all the houses, Northcutt ended up sabotaging the efforts and fired all the elves. But then Nick then eventually ended up realizing that Northcutt was also bullied as a child, and he was just troubled and didn't get the gift that he wanted when he was a child. And so then Nick apologized for putting him at the top of the naughty list when he was a child, and then gave him the gift that he always wanted as a child, which was a Superman cape. Yeah. Then it showed Fred then visiting Slam and gave him the dog that he wanted for Christmas and told him to be a better person. Then once every gift was delivered, Fred then returned back to the North Pole, and Willie finally started a relationship with Charlene, a tall elf who he was trying to talk to throughout the entire movie. Then with Nick seeing how Fred completed his job, they then made amends with each other. And then Northcutt was then hired to work at the North Pole, and it showed how Slam was adopted, and Fred also reconciled with Wanda, and then took her to Paris. And then it showed how by the next Christmas, the entire Claus family was reunited, including the bird that Fred spoke to as a child. And that's how the movie ended. So like I said, there is a lot of stuff that does not work about the film. Like some stuff can get like pretty silly and over the top at times. But yeah, like I said, it's not really like as stupid, I think, as a lot of people really put it out to be. Like some stuff does work. The performances are kind of like hit and miss, but Vince Vaughn does decent, and Paul Giamatti is a pretty good Santa. Yeah, and I do kind of like the message that this movie does send about like the naughty kids and stuff. So yeah, oh yeah, so this film does at least get some stuff right. Like I said, I can't really go so far to say this is a good film, but yeah, it still is like it does still get some stuff right. And yeah, and it's not really amongst the best Christmas movies of all time. It's nowhere near the best, but if you're just looking for kind of like something different with kind of like a silly idea with Santa having a brother, then I guess like this film, it is at least worth watching at least once. Like this is probably not something that I am going to be watching like every year for Christmas. I mean, like I said, this was the first time that I had actually seen this movie. So yeah, but even now, like after seeing it, this probably isn't something that I am gonna watch like every year during Christmas time. But yeah, I guess I am at least glad that I did watch it at least once. Yeah. So yeah. So if you're interested in this idea, then yeah, give it a watch and decide for yourself. Yeah. So like I said, I give this film 2.25 stars out of 4. All right. So yeah. So I guess that's all I can really say about it. All right. So this was it for my review of Fred Claus. So I hope you guys did enjoy this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.